Reshut Zayin Aleph through Aleph Reshut Tes.
Reshut Zayin Aleph. Hold on. Aleph to where? Reshut Zayin Aleph.
Through Reshut Tes Aleph.
You test?
Yes.
Oh, right, because it was yes. Okay. Simon Reshut Zayin. Didn't me shaloi nog avelus by gimel sivim. Somebody wasn't noyag avelus. So Oval shaloi nog avelus tosh shiva. An oval who was not noyag avelus tosh shiva. Bein b'shoigim is whether he did it on purpose, or whether he did it by mistake. Mashlo is kol shloishim. He's got a whole 30 days to deal with it. Chutz min kriya, except for kriya. Shem loy kora b'shas chimum, heina koira ela b'soich zayin, the choshev shas chimum. Because meaning it's too late. You can't do kriya when you no longer feel the
Stay here.
I want to hear Baruch Hu.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah. Shem like Korah b'shas chimum, because if he doesn't tear when he's hot, ain't a Korah, ain't a Kareh, he can no longer tear Kriya anymore. Ela b'sach zayin the choshev shas chimum. So within 7 days, that's considered shas chimum. Val ava v'imay Kareh la'olam. But for a mother and a father, you can tear forever. All right. Beis katan shemeis lemeis. A katan who died. Not a cotton didn't die, meaning a cotton, his relative died. Afilu higdil to Shiva, even if he became a gadol during Shiva, kivan shebeshas misa hayapoter, since by the death he was potter mimenu called in avelus, and then the whole avelus is bottle from him. Ach ba'avelus to yibes chaydash alav ve'imashu mishum kvaydam yesh linoy, then he should have it. Right, meaning a cotton doesn't have avelus. I think we saw that once before. Right? But if the Avelus started when he was a cotton, then he's bottled from it. Right? But he should still keep the Avelus of the year. Gimel, Chayla shemes lemes shechaylas avlalov. So Chayla who died, and he didn't die, I'm sorry, he has a relative who died, and he's chaylas avlalov and noidalov, and then it was known to him, so in Ivri Tosh Shiva, if he got better, Tosh Shiva, Gomer Yomim Hanasharim, then he finishes the Shiva, and if he got better during Shloshim, so then he finishes off the Shloshim. But he does not have to finish the days that passed from his Chol. I mean, he doesn't have to make it up. Does no Gamkein mixes Avelus, because he was noig a little bit of Avelus. Meaning he knew about it. He couldn't sit on the floor, etc., because it was a Chayla. Right? Shabbos there's no avelus and it's not mafsik, so it's the same thing. When she has a baby, she also doesn't have to finish her day that she passed from her birth. She just finishes the days that are left over. So this, unfortunately, is, the situation in Gaza, trying to figure out. I mean, unfortunately, they're not from too many of them, but trying to figure out if there's Eidos that's good enough that the men are dead, or this week is 9/11, or the next week 9/11, same issue, all the Aguna things with the wars and all that. Fine, so Aleph, misavlin al pi aid echad, you can have avelus with one aid. The aid mi pi aid, and even can be one person who hears from another person. And by a guy, it only works masiach lefituma, meaning the guy can't know that you're banking on him for halachic purposes, because then he'll just make up stories. You have to somehow make it that you just want to know if the guy died, and if you have the guy says, "Oh yeah, I saw this guy get killed," or whatever it is, then it's fine. Somebody get a letter that his relative died. We don't know whether it was in the last 30 days or it's after 30 days. So if the one who wrote the letter is not about Torah, So then we say that he's alive, and we don't trust. We one second. Meaning, and we do trust the letter because that's Eid Echad, but we don't trust that it happened. Not trust is not the right word. We don't say that it happened way before. We assume that the guy wrote the letter that's the day of the death. Then he has to have Avelis from, let's say, the day before the letter is signed. But if he's educated, we're going to assume that he wrote the letter after Shloshim. Because if it would get to him within 30 days, he would not have written it bestam. He would have let them know, by the way, when you get this letter, right? Meaning, because a person with Taish Shloshim, if he finds out about the news, he has to sit a full shiva. So he would have said this information in the letter. If it's not in there, so we're assuming that it's not from about Torah. But if it's the father or mother, meaning the one that died was the father or mother, since the minig is to tell about a parent's death immediately, then he would be chayiv to have a regular avelus, and we assume that he found out within 30 days. Okay, Simon Reish, you testing avelus b'Shabbos b'Yom Uboy test seifim. Fine. So Shabbos Shabbosaycha Shiva. Shabbos during Shiva Noyeg Boy Devarim Shabbatzina. The only Noyeg things that are hidden. Dahainu Shazabatasha Shamitu or Rechitza, meaning things that you do in the privacy of your own home, not in front of others, that you keep on Shabbos. So that's relations and washing. Anything in public, you're not Noyeg. Before Mizmah Shul Yom Shabbos, that's when they put on the shoes. They sit on a chair. And then they switch out of their torn begadim. And that's where you get that's where you get that whole the Indian of the Avelim coming in and everybody saying Hamakam. But learning is considered something done b'tzina. So therefore, you are not allowed to learn on Shabbos. To do Maver Seder is mutter. Since a person is chayiv, you hear that? You're chayiv to finish your parshas. It's no different than reading Shema. That's a little plug for those that need to finish off Maver Seder or need an inspiration for next cycle, right? That it's so important to be Maver Sedra that even an oval who's not allowed to learn Torah is allowed to not only allowed to, he's mechuyev to be Maver Sedra. Where are we going to, Naftali?
You're done. Ratio test Aleph.
Oh, it's just till Aleph?
Yeah.
I hear. Okay, anyways, so I hope that's an inspiration to at least we get something non-avelus out of this for the last 2 weeks. And it's really required to be Maver Sedra. I once asked the big Talmud Chacham, I said, the guy told me that he said, if he's Maver Sedra, that's the only learning he's going to do. He won't be able to learn Gemara. He won't have time. He says, so what should he do? So I thought it was a good question. I went to this Talmud Chacham and says, it says in Shulchan Aruch that you have to be Maver Sedra. Finished. There's no negotiations. There's no anything. That's what you have to do. It says, like here, the Kitzur says, same way you have to say Shema every day. Nobody's ever going to say that, oh, I'm skipping Shema because otherwise I won't be able to learn. Right? It's either Shema or Gemara. No. So you got to learn. So you got to learn. You got to do Maver Sedra and you got to learn. That was his answer. I didn't know what to do with that. But anyways, on that note, everybody should have a fine night.
Good. Have a good night.